Year's weekend, TNT unleashes a rip-roaring end-of-year Monster Vision bash. Saturday, giant mutants hammer Tokyo all night long. Sunday, Godzilla crashes the party. It's a 2-day bash guaranteed to bring down the house. End the year in a big way. Rip into a weekend of Monster Vision. Next on TNT.
We're back again with the king of the fucking monsters, Godzilla himself. The second Godzilla game on NES, Godzilla 2, War of the Monsters. There's humanity preparing their fucking engines to fight the monster. And the key, this is supposed to be a sequel, hence the 2, to the first Godzilla that I owned and have already shown you. This game, however, is not really a sequel. It's a completely different game. And as you will soon see, it's actually kind of a primitive type of strategy game, where you don't play Godzilla, you actually fight against him as the, Earth Defense Forces or whatever. Listen to that uplifting, inspiring military battle music. But yeah, I rented this game as a kid, as I did often, from a local place in my town called All the Best Video. And I rarely ever rented a game twice, although I believe I rented this one 2 different times. In part because I'm a Godzilla nut, but also partly because, I didn't have enough time in one rental to play all these scenarios. And as you can see, there's 12 different scenarios you could play. The conclusive battle, the last 2 or 3 are real fucking hard. But I've played all of them. I've never beaten all of them, although I've beaten many of them. And, it's, they're all neat. They all have their own little thing. But, I mean, in general, none of them are terribly different from one another. And, to be honest, this isn't the single most exciting game in the universe, even as strategy games go, but as a kid, I fucking ate it up, because I'm a Godzilla fan. So we're gonna play Scenario 6, New Allies, in this one specifically because I'm playing it, because in this one, if you find and protect Mothra's egg, you get to use Mothra and her larva as allied units. So the way this game works is it's a turn-based strategy game. There's Godzilla, the first monster has shown up. Here's Dr. Serizawa, which is the name of an actual scientist from the first Godzilla movie. Usually those scientists aren't worth a shit, they don't give you much advice. But you go around to these different, this is a, Air Force base, and this is an Army base. And you go around to these different places and order units, which will pop up in the next, turn or two. And of course you have little cities there, and a fucking nuclear, power plant, and bridges, and all this other shit that you have to defend, because the monsters, just like in the movies, love to show up and wreck shit. So this is my turn right now. There's Godzilla's stats. But I'm going to end my turn. And then, of course, it's the monster phase. And right away, Godzilla goes for that fucking nuclear power plant, because, as was established in the 80s, in Godzilla 1985, or Return of Godzilla, he apparently loves nuclear power. He loves nuclear energy. That was never a thing in the old original 50s, 60s, and 70s Showa series, but in the Heisei era series, the second Godzilla series in the 80s and 90s, they established that new retcon that Godzilla fed off of or absorbed, nuclear power. He fed off of nuclear energy. He didn't actually eat any kind of food. Which, in a way makes sense, because he's so gigantic, what the fuck's he gonna eat, right? A creature that big would probably kill off most of the world's whale supply or whatever pretty quickly, unless as is actually the case with Godzilla, he goes to sleep a lot. All the giant monsters in the Godzilla universe tend to take really long naps. They hibernate quite a bit, which I guess in a natural sense would make, that would work. Because what else, giant monsters like that couldn't just roam freely all the fucking time. Even if there wasn't human cities to worry about trampling. So yeah, I rented this game 2 different times as a kid. Of course, when I first played it, I had to figure out what the fuck was going on. And part of that was this little slot game you see up here, which is still a mystery to a lot of people. It determines the strength or weakness of your unit and the monster unit. And the blue icons are yours, and the red icons are the monsters. And it basically has to do with those 3 stats you see there. It has to do with, like, life power, defense power, and energy or whatever. Attack, like, how strong your attack's gonna be, how high your defense is gonna be, etc., etc. And I didn't, at a lot of these old video rental places, for you young millennials who maybe didn't get to experience such a thing, the games would come with, like, printed out, not always, but they would come out with, like, printed scans or whatever, Xerox copies of pages of the booklet. So, you still got the booklet, although sometimes the copies were shit. And, fuck.
Monster of is a skyscraper. When he moves, the whole earth quivers and quakes, and an abyss of horror opens up. See these prehistoric beasts emerge from the bowels of the earth after 200 million years to devastate mankind. Supersonic jets cannot catch him. Rockets cannot stop him. Armored tanks are helpless before him. Even guided missiles are powerless. See Rodan destroy a modern city, leveling it to the earth with a killing airstream of his mighty wings. Nothing can stop him. Nothing escapes this monstrous beast of evil.
So as you can see, yeah, air units are pretty useless against Rodan. He fucking trashes them. As you can also see, I found Mothra's egg down here in the south, as one of the scientists advised me. And now I can use baby Mothra and full-grown Mothra to go try and trash these evil asshole enemy monsters. And they are fairly useful in doing so. They're not the strongest monsters. I guess that would be cheating if you could play as Godzilla. Another little quirk of the gameplay here is that when your units, if they don't get fucking blown up in one hit, like a couple of my planes did against asshole Rodan, you can take them back. You have to take them back to specific places. You can take the science vehicles back to the lab. You can take the air vehicles back to the Air Force base. You can take or the airfield, whatever it's called, the army base. You know, you take the ground units too, and they will, over the course of 2 or 3 turns, depending on how damaged they are and how much hit points they have. Haha, Rodan, you motherfucker. Depending on all those parameters, it'll usually take at least 2 turns for your units to get their health points back, but they can heal. It's just that you have to go out of your way and move them, sometimes over several turns, to get them back to those bases, and it can be a pain in the ass. But, yeah, I did eventually figure it out. I'm quite certain that the first time I ever played this, I'm pretty sure that I played the first scenario, which basically just features Godzilla and Baragon, 2 monsters, and you have to stop Godzilla from trashing a fucking nuclear bomb that's being moved or something. And I lost because I didn't know what the fuck to do. That little round bad boy over there is the Super X. I think it's actually the Super X2, featured in the 80s Godzilla films. I'm gonna take a crack at Godzilla himself, speaking of. Although this plane is about done. I'm gonna shoot a fucking missile at him. That's all him. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. Godzilla is fairly impervious to most attacks. And there goes another plane. Just like in real life. In the movies, Godzilla trashed fighter jets all the fucking time. I've mentioned before that the first Godzilla movies I remember seeing were VHS tapes I had of Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original Godzilla King of the Monsters Gojira, the 1954 classic. I had the direct sequel to that, Godzilla Raids Again. And eventually, I didn't get too many more of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, of course. I didn't get too many more of them on tape, though. I had to wait a while until Godzilla movies started appearing on TV to see more, and part of that was TNT's Monster Vision, as I've shown in some of the graphics for these episodes. And through Monster Vision, I got to see movies like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla for the first time, although I think I eventually got that on tape. And they had named it Godzilla vs. the Cosmic Monster, which is one of its dumb US alternate titles. But I also saw a Terror of Mechagodzilla. I got to see Godzilla vs. Gigan for the first time, which was called Godzilla in Monsterland or some shit like that. I got to see a movie called All Monsters Attack, which was actually not a real Godzilla movie. I mean, it was, but it was some shit. I'll tell you about it in a second. Here's the first monster-on-monster action of the night. I'm gonna give Rodan a fucking wing chop and see how that suits him. You know, it didn't do too bad. However, Mothra, as I've said before, even in the first Godzilla game on NES, not the strongest monster. Her defense is low. I'm gonna send this thing here called a Mazer, which is basically a giant fucking laser beam on wheels, towards Godzilla and Hedorah, the smog monster. I'm gonna shoot a missile right up Rodan's fucking asshole, hopefully. Ha! Not quite asshole, but you know, in the upper chest region, that'll do. Missed! You know, missing and hitting, accuracy, all that shit, has something to do with those little roulette things, but you know, It's you know, it's not 100% clear. Here is the Super X2. I'm gonna take on Baragon, who you may remember from the first Godzilla game. I mentioned he was not originally from a Godzilla film. He was from Frankenstein Conquers the World. But he did have a cameo appearance for maybe 2 seconds in the background of Destroy All Monsters. The late 60s, like 1968 Godzilla film. Technically speaking, the funny thing about Destroy All Monsters, which I did not get to see on TV, I had to wait until I was a teen and saw it on tape when I rented it. But, Destroy All Monsters, even though there were other Godzilla movies in the Showa era afterwards in the 70s, Destroy All Monsters is chronologically supposed to be the last in the series. Ha! Fuck you, Rodan. But yeah, I saw All Monsters Attack. They titled it Godzilla's Revenge in the American version that I saw on TNT's Monster Vision. And it's basically a clip show. It's a cheaply made little movie about a Japanese boy whose parents both work, and so he's kind of bored and doesn't have a lot of friends, and he's depressed or whatever. And he daydreams a lot. He daydreams that he can communicate with Godzilla's son, Minya, or Manila, whatever the fuck you want to call him. And he dreams that he takes a plane trip to fucking Monster Island where all the monsters are kept. And him and Minya hang out and watch Daddy Godzilla in a bunch of scenes from earlier 60s Godzilla films fight the likes of the sea monster and the giant bugs from Son of Godzilla. It basically is mostly a bunch of, or you know, rehashed scenes from older Godzilla movies, which even as a kid, I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know, I want some real action. Now, in all fairness, it did have a new It did have a new monster, which was the only saving grace for me as a kid. It had this dream bully monster named Gabara, who was actually the name of the bully in real life, the bully kid who bullied the kid at school. And so obviously he turned, in his imagination, in his dreams, he turned Gabara into this bully monster that would bully little Godzilla Jr. And then Big Godzilla had to show up and show Junior how to fight. And eventually him and Junior beat Gabara's ass and sent him packing. But, you know, I didn't like that movie much as a kid. That was like the only Godzilla movie I saw as a kid that I really didn't care for. Although as an adult, I saw it again, and you know what? Take that, Baragon. I saw it again as an adult, and I was like, you know, it's good for what it is. It's a neat little story about a kid's imagination and him learning to be brave and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's a decent... If you've never seen All Monsters Attack or Godzilla's Revenge, you know, give it a watch. It's cheese, but it's okay. Just put it at the bottom of your Godzilla viewing pleasure. There you go. I just fucking killed the first monster of the night. Baragon, poor little bastard, went down like a sack of potatoes to the Super X2. But yeah, those were the only Godzilla movies I saw. I also saw, oddly enough, I didn't get to see Frankenstein Conquers the World until I was a teen or an adult but I did get to see the sequel, sort of sequel, called War of the Gargantuas, which is about two giant Sasquatchy ape guys duking it out. That was on TNT's Monster Vision. Alright, let's see if we can't tell Rodan, excuse me, to more or less go fuck himself, because, you know, he's hanging around too long. He's past his expiration date, and I want him to just, you know, fuck off a little bit. Unfortunately, whew, dodged a bullet. Can he dodge this? No, cannot. One tick left. He should be dead soon. Let's hope. Let's fuck him up. I don't like that. You see that shit? In between matches, the enemy monsters can regenerate an indeterminate amount of health. And look at that shit. If Rodan hadn't recovered his health magically in between the seconds of the two battles I initiated, you know, I would have fucking had him dead to rights. Mothra would have just cleaned his clock right then. But because they can regenerate health between turns, or sometimes even between fights, I gotta deal with this shit. And no, I'm good. That's 2 bullets dodged.
A remote Pacific island, where an expedition of world-famous scientists investigate incredible rumors of its fantastic mysteries and discover barren volcanic mountains surrounding strange green valleys. Mammoth caves that breed giant mutations. Vampire plants that devour humans. But most astounding of all, the tiniest women in all creation. Sacred beauties of a lost tribe which worships a monstrous creature. What is the secret of Mothra? What is the bizarre spell that awakens Mothra as these doll-sized girls call to the super god from captivity? Mothra, whose revenge is more devastating than any man-made weapon. Mothra, who defies warplanes. Wrecks ocean liners. Smashes dams and bridges. Mothra, creating hurricanes. Mothra, enveloped in a shell that no human force can penetrate. Mothra, indestructible, all-powerful, indescribable. What kind of creature is this god monster, Mothra?
Knock on some fucking desk. Oh, Jesus. Look what I did. I allowed innocent civilians to be trampled, destroyed by fucking Godzilla. Now let's see if I can just, you know, tell him to, you know, that's 3 bullets. Let's do this. Boom! Right back to 1 tick where I had you before, asshole. Now I'm over here, dealing with Godzilla. Here's the Mazer in action for the first time. Giant fucking electric beam. Look at the damage that did. You know what? I want to point out that that's not canon. A Mazer would not hurt Godzilla like that. That's kind of fucking ridiculous. I just want to point that out. In Godzilla's defense, he deserves some defense. He is the king of monsters. He deserves some goddamn respect, right? A tank ain't gonna do shit to him, surely, right? It's just a tank. Oh! No, you know what? That's not canon. I feel offended for Godzilla right now. Because, anybody who's seen an old Godzilla movie knows for goddamn sure, tanks don't do shit. He fucking laughs at those things all day. It tickles. Here's fucking Rodan with his shit back again. His health is back up a little bit. Give him a little wing chop, karate chop action. Not enough. Not what I wanted. Oh, fuck. However, his wing beats are apparently, I don't know, sonic booms or some shit, because, you know, in the movies that is kind of canon. Rodan is actually much faster in the air than Mothra is. And he can fly so fast that he actually can create sonic booms. Fuck! Missed! And he's not gonna miss me, is he? Nope. 4 bullets to dodge is too much to ask. Apparently. So, I go from first to worst right there. I thought for sure I had Rodan set up for an early grave, and instead he fucking pulled one over on me. Let's check the status. Still needs some healing. Back to, oh, of course, he picks the weakest thing. I think that might legitimately be a thing that the computer does, is picks the weakest opponent. Mega Tank action! shot Godzilla right in the fucking nuts, if he has any. Actually, that's a funny story. According to my fan theory, that I've gone with for years, I actually do not think Godzilla has nuts. True story. I think that most giant monsters like Godzilla are actually asexual, or Rodan, because they're too fucking big to breed, right? Too big for there to be a lot of them. So I think my theory always went that Godzilla lays one egg in his lifetime or some shit, you know. And then he dies by a maser, which is not real. Rest in peace, Godzilla. As I was saying, here's Hedorah, the Smog Monster, another movie that I didn't get to see until adulthood, actually. Or at least my late teens. Jesus, he doesn't like electricity, though. Which, you know what? That's canon. That's canon to his movie. Electricity fucked his shit up quite a bit. Whereas Godzilla initially had some trouble fighting him, because he's just an amorphous blob of shit. Human fucking pollution. But, I think my fan theory has always gone that Godzilla had a son, because, you know, he gives birth to an egg or some shit, maybe. And then, you know, when that Godzilla dies, you know, the next one takes over. It's kind of a, you know, one-to-one deal. In my fan reckoning, I always figured that Minya grew up to be the Heisei era, 80s and 90s Godzilla, and that Godzilla Jr. in that 80s and 90s era grew up to be the Millennium 2000s Godzilla. So, oh geez, there goes the lab. So much for them. What I'm doing right now, you notice I sent Mothra back down to the egg. That's where she has to go to heal. Now let's see if we can tell Hedorah to fuck off. Throwing pollution and sludge at me like a rude asshole. I'm gonna throw a little electricity up his ass, and he's gonna go bye-bye.
TNT's New Year's Eve Monster Vision continues on TNT.
See, folks, that's all we need to fight pollution and global warming is giant maser beams. Now, see, Mothra's all healed up, but so is Rodan, unfortunately. He's had plenty of time to lick his goddamn wounds, and that really, you know, did some damage. And, you know, sometimes Mothra just doesn't do as much damage as you'd like her to. The trick is that you have to protect Mothra's egg, because if you let a monster destroy Mothra's egg, she's fucked, right? She doesn't do too well. It actually depletes her health quite a bit. Don't ask me how that makes actual sense, but that's how the game works. And I'm honestly surprised that that little radar car is so sturdy. That the shit's made of tougher stuff. And we're gonna... See, look how much he healed already. Rodan, I don't mind telling you, is pissing me the fuck off. He's the last monster on the board. And that shouldn't be so. Rodan's a puss. He can fly fast, but you know what? Godzilla should have been the last guy on the board, honestly. If this were real. The little kid in me, who grew up loving Godzilla, almost like a superhero, has to point out that no. Rodan, nothing. If they had made a movie called Godzilla vs. Rodan and that was the whole focus, Godzilla would have beat his ass. Eventually. They did actually fight in one movie, in another movie that I didn't get to see until probably adulthood. For some reason or another. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster was actually the first movie that King Ghidorah showed up in. And that movie starred Godzilla, Rodan, and a little larva Mothra, a little caterpillar baby Mothra. And at first, Godzilla and Rodan fucking hated each other. You know, Rodan called Godzilla's mom a bitch or something along those lines. And they didn't like each other. They were not fans. They were not friends. Little Mothra was the peacemaker. Little Mothra said, hey, dudes, King Ghidorah's fucking shit up. You guys should grow up. We should team up, join forces, form a monster league, and just tell Ghidorah to fuck off. And they did. They did. I just spoiled the entire movie for you, more or less. But they did. Yeah, they did. I'd like to say Godzilla did kick Rodan's ass a bit in that movie. They were best friends in my favorite movie, the direct sequel to that, which was Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, also known as Invasion of the Astro Monster. Strategy. Where to move shit. If only little Larva Mothra moved faster, or could move over more land. Let me take a gamble here. I probably should have moved that tank over to block the egg, honestly, now that I think about it. JP. Jerk points. Oh, you know, that did some damage. I think JP probably helps me out a little bit. Not in the defense area, though. So, here we go. Round 5, or whatever it is, between these two. You know, that would be honestly, that would have been an interesting movie. That would have been an interesting battle. Mothra versus Rodan back in the day. But, I don't know how exciting the battles would have been. It would have been two monsters flying around each other. And as I pointed out, like, Mothra is not terribly fast. I mean, not compared. She can't go at supersonic speeds, at least in the old Showa era films, compared to Rodan. Now, Rodan backed off, and I fucked up. You know what? I did it right then to myself. I apparently don't like to make anything easy. I just fucked up big time, and I want to point that out to you. I should have, if I had been thinking, left Mothra by her egg, both so she could protect it and also continuously regenerate between turns. I fucked up. Egg is dead. I'm an asshole. Major travesty has occurred. And now, the Mothras, adult and larva, as you can see, massively depleted. And they cannot gain that health back now. So, they're basically not much good anymore. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. It's a hearkening to Godzilla vs. Mothra, the first movie. I'm going to use her poison powder that she uses when she's dying, which is accurate. And look at that! I mean, I fucked up, but that did some major damage. I did manage to tell Rodan to fuck off a little bit. So we'll see what happens now with this almost dead tank of mine. Missed! Of course I missed. Fucking Rodan. Pain in my ass. Let's move this bomber jet over here. This is it. This is it, Rodan. You're done. You're never gonna work in this town again. Whew! I mean, I don't know what Baby Mothra is gonna do at this point. But we'll just move some units around. Anyway, I refuse to go down to this asshole. I'm not gonna let Rodan win. I got one monster left. I'm not about to take any shit from him, even though I fucked up big time with Mothra and that egg. This fucking tank over here. Set it there so it'll heal. Now let's just end this shit, shall we? Leave it to the Super X. A vehicle specifically made to fight giant monsters. You missed, asshole. You got no health left, and I'm gonna tell you, hey buddy. Fuck you! Hey, fuck you, Rodan! Yeah! Yeah, boy! And that's it. See, look, there you go. We've done it. We have wiped out all the monsters. And in case you're wondering, yes, that is the ending that you get for beating any of the scenarios. There's no, like, reward for beating all of the scenarios that I'm aware of. So there you go. That is Godzilla 2, War of the Monsters on the Nintendo Entertainment System. As I said, not the most exciting game in the world. But, you know what? For what it is, especially it helps if you're a Godzilla nut like me, it can be fun. And I will say that I do every once in a while come back to it and play one of the scenarios again, just for fun. It's a nice time killer, you know. Final thoughts, I would have to say, of all the Godzilla games that they made, which honestly there weren't nearly enough, there have not been nearly enough over the years, I still, part of it's nostalgia of course, but I still like the two on NES, these two games on NES the best. I did really like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee on the GameCube. That was a fun game. It's just that, like a lot of fighting games, like there isn't a lot to it. Once you beat it with a few monsters and, you know, whatever, you've seen the game, right? It doesn't, the replay value, I guess, for those kinds of games, for Destroy All Monsters would be like fighting your friends versus shit. But as a single player, because I grew up as an only child, and spent a lot of time playing by myself, cue sad music, you know, I enjoy multiplayer gaming, but I have always kind of just had a preference for solo gaming because that's what I always did growing up. And so I always come back to those games. Even though neither of them are perfect, they're both flawed. But I still, they hold a special place in my childhood heart. So, there you go. That's Godzilla 2. If you ever feel like playing a kind of archaic strategy game with some kaiju monster action, I'd suggest playing it. And I'll see you next time.
Paris, le monstre souterrain vient d'attaquer l'Arc de Triomphe. Construit selon
Говорит Москва. Крылатое чудовище Родон совершило налет на Москву.
イト SI3 ムーンライト SI3 こちらはムーンライト SI3
遠い宇宙の彼方からやってきたキラーアク星人。彼らはその恐るべき科学力によって地球征服を企てていた。キラーアク星人は宇宙怪獣キングギドラを使って地球を攻撃。全人類の危機迫る。迎え撃つ地球怪獣総出動。ここに史上最大の決戦の火蓋が切って落とされた。
これで操縦されてるんです。よし、砲撃開始。